good news, Chapter 70 is not being cut. That is disingenuous when I hear that outside. I know that we are taking a big hit here, mainly due to the loss of the federal monies, and I just want to make that clear to anyone who's watching out there. Thank you.
And partly it's also the issue that we made some fairly substantial cuts last year. Absolutely. In some of our staffing, and we increased class size. So those cuts continue into this year. So there's less money allocated to those services. So you're going to see that. But you know, even last year, federal funding wasn't enough to put those back.
Thank you. Mr.
A couple of comments, and just for clarification purposes, I'd appreciate if you'd give me some feedback. First is I'm seeing a major savings in special education budget, and that's a result of, in the past 2 years, some structural changes and a new approach to improving the services at the Westport schools to make it more attractive and have students who have often the choice of where their needs are met to decide to stay within the programs that we offer here in the district. So out-of-district savings have been reduced?
There is two parts to this. Expenses. One of them was we were very reliant on going outside of our staff to, we had people that we were contracting with on a fairly regular basis for psychological services, for speech and language, for OT. All those services sometimes cost you more if there's enough of them than it would be to have your own staff. So this year we have our own psychologists. We have 2 speech people that are now employed by us. We have a new OT, and I think we're getting a good bang for the buck in that sense. So yeah, there's some services that we can now provide a little bit with some savings within the schools. We did create some new programs or improve some of the programs we used to have. So some students that we were projecting would leave have not left. And then I know Ann Harkin has been traveling to the out-of-district placements and trying to, one, assess whether the placement is the correct one, whether the students are improving in that placement. So it's not like you just send them off to an out-of-district placement and don't evaluate the placement. Sometimes in working with the parents and the out-of-district placement, you come to the realization, hey, student is doing very well. How about we try something less restrictive and maybe going from, a program that has all summer, maybe it's just during the year, so that reduction in programming saves us some money, but it's not like we're not trying to provide the service. It's just we've been able to be more efficient as to what kind of services we provide. As long as they're appropriate, we pay them.
So, and the second point I had is that although we're having savings in that area, we're plugging other holes with that savings. And yes. So the regular educational budget is reflective of level service. However, I'm not seeing a lot of being able to perhaps address class size.
No.
I see reduced class here in the language, but we're not able, right now, we're not looking at any enhancements.
I think last year what people noticed in the budget was that we took funding from the regular ed classrooms and shifted them to special ed. Now we're seeing some savings generated by those shifts, and some of the savings are now going back to support the regular ed. It's still not enough. So we're not going to have to make additional cuts, but we don't have enough funding, even with the savings, to be able to bring more teachers back, for example, to lower class sizes or doing any of these other improvements. Every year, whenever you have some of these salaries and contractual obligations that increase because you negotiated a contract a few years back, you're not going to get away from it. So there is going to be increase year to year, and the the good news is this year we're covering those increases from savings, rather than having to go back out and say, we need more money. So we can cover those increases. What we can't cover is any additional increases that may get negotiated between now and next year. And we can't cover any of the improvements, and we can't cover any of the losses from previous years. You're right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. A little bit off topic, but I have to bring it up because Dr. Colley mentioned it, and it just, I can't wrap my head around it. You said when Ann Harkin goes out to do out-of-district reviews, if a student's doing well, why do we want to bring them back? Least restrictive environment. I need you to explain it, because I just couldn't wrap my head around it when you said that. If someone's doing well in a program.
Sometimes programs are designed around needs that we cannot meet. However, if we create the program here, sometimes parents prefer to have the students close to home. In other words, you're not in a bus for an extra hour going out to Swansea or, wherever else. Sometimes it's as simple as, we found a program closer to home, so now the kid doesn't have to be in a residential placement, so now the kid can go back and forth. So it may not be that we bring them back completely for some of those cases. It's simply the program is less expensive because it's a different program, maybe closer to home, maybe less restrictive. And from time to time, we have had programs that we go and we say, well, if the out-of-district placement currently where they are is not appropriate, or the students are not showing improvement, let's see if there's something else out there that can work, or can we create something in the district. So it's not necessarily that we just go out looking for people to bring back. There's some kids that we'll probably never bring back because we may have just one or two kids who have that kind of a scenario, and there may be 4 or 5 across the whole state, and they're in one program somewhere, and we may not have the capacity or the wherewithal to put it together for them. But in other cases, if we can put something together at home, the students can then be a part of the community. They could engage in things like internships within the community, those kind of things that we try to provide for our students.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Harrison?
Do we have any indication of where House 1 is looking at, or when do we expect that to materialize? Or Mr. Valcourt, have you heard anything? I mean, last year we went from the governor to the House to Senate and got negative. So
it's kind of like Pandora's box at this point. It hasn't been opened really yet. We know what the governor said he wanted to do is not what the legislature said that they wanted to do. As usual, we expect quite a battle to go forth over the next month or so. We probably have a better handle on it toward the end of March than we have right now, but